All right, everybody, welcome. Can you do a roll call for us, Kathy?
Got it. Saban. Bartleson. Here. Lobes.
Here.
Bergbauer.
Here.
Galogly.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Karas.
Here.
Kostecki. Here. We have a quorum.
All right, Bill Carroll's here to open us up.
If you would pray with me, everybody. Dear God, tonight I ask blessings and thanks for our city leaders. Lord, for the people here that have given their life of service to our city. Blessings on them, blessings on their family, blessings that they've chose a path they did to represent us and to care for our city. I thank you for our city workers. Blessings on them and their families in a job where they work nonstop and with very little thanks, but they make our city work. Lord, blessings on our police officers and what they do for our city. Blessings for our firemen and women and what they do for us. And Lord, I just ask that your hand be upon Lockport as we continue to grow and expand, and great things are happening here, Lord. We thank you for our city. We thank you for our leadership, and we thank you that you are here tonight with us and to lead us in wisdom. In your name, amen.
Man, thanks. Appreciate it, Bill. All right, my friends, anybody have any liaison reports?
Not really, just a reminder that our summer beautification contest ended on September 1st. And so at our next meeting is probably when we're going to recognize those that have sent in their applications, so.
All right, sounds good.
Don't forget, we have the shred event. I'm sorry. Shred event.
Oh, yeah. Actually, have boxes ready.
Yeah. 9 a.m. here at City Hall on the west side
On Saturday,
on Saturday.
until what time?
9 to noon or until the truck is full.
Okay.
And we'll have a couple of Public Works volunteers down there to help people unload their cars.
How does that work? Because I've never been to one. Do I have to take each piece of paper and stick it in there like this, or do I just throw a box?
So they bring their stuff that needs to be shred in the box, and they don't get that box back or bags back. We just take it, they put it in well, actually, there is a shredder that's going. It's the whole thing that goes
Yeah.
in.
All right, so it's,
You just pull up with your box and we'll
Yeah.
take two, limit 2 boxes. More than 2 boxes.
Steve, you know that
How
scene
big
from
of a
Goodfellas?
Yeah.
Same.
that's how it's going to be.
So, Ben, I'm sorry, so who's going to be there then?
We'll have a couple of Public Works volunteers. I'll be there for a while. I'm bringing some of my stuff to shred too, so. But you limit 2 boxes per person, and then if the truck fills up, then it fills up. But
So
Two
has everything been
refrigerator
sent
boxes?
out?
Yeah, two
yeah,
I like that.
Facebook and
It's like-
everything, 9 to noon, huh?
Because I have not seen it on Facebook to tell
Yeah,
you.
we've
Has
we
anyone
put it
else?
out.
Okay,
We've
good.
sent it out.
Okay.
September 10th?
Yeah, this Saturday, 9 to noon.
Thank you.
While I'm talking on events, I guess, we have the Silver Cross Hospital event at Lock and Mule tomorrow night. You can still come and do raffles if you like. We've got Spooky Night Out on Saturday, September 17th. We've got the Lockport Township House School Foundation is having the Taste of Lockport on Saturday, September 24th. The Haunted House opens on September 30th. So a lot going on in Lockport in September. And I think the Halloween hours for Monday to 31st, we were thinking 4 to 7 p.m., if that's okay with everybody? 4 to 7 p.m. on Monday, October 31st.
So that's the official.
It's,
it's not on
we
a
usually
Saturday?
do 3 to 7 on the weekends, I think, but since it's not a weekend, it's a Monday. But it's up to you guys, whatever you want to deem it.
My only concern is if it gets dark for the kids.
Yeah, usually,
Turn the clocks back yet, so it should be.
4, yeah, usually kids go around 4, but we good?
I also think St. Joe's is bringing their.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry,
Oktoberfest
the
back this year.
Oktoberfest, but I'm not sure what day that is.
Forget
You know?
too.
The 30th, whatever, 31st, 1st and 2nd, or whatever. So
Okay.
last Friday and then the 1st and 2nd of October.
Oh, did you mention World War or military days?
Oh, my gosh, yeah, thank you.
That's a big one. That's cool.
September 11th,
Yeah.
10th and 11th, yeah,
That's
this
this
weekend.
weekend.
This
It's next
weekend.
day, yeah,
So
yeah.
after you shred, go over to military weekend. Okay.
Awesome.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Karen, you said something?
Yeah, I had a couple of things. Lockport Animal Hospital is looking to expand their parking lot, and we've received their final plan submittal for that. The gas and wash that's proposed at 143rd and Gauger goes before Planning Zoning Commission on Tuesday. And I think most people saw that Bettenhausen and Lockport Square broke ground, so that project is now underway.
All right, right on. Thanks, Karen, appreciate it.
Okay, I have something for our environmental committee. The 30th and 31st of August went to the Illinois Recycling Foundation. They had something that was a 2-day event. It was very interesting. got to learn a lot more about recycling. And one thing I got super excited about, but I'm getting a dead end, is this company called Simple Recycling. It runs the same as At Your Door, except it doesn't cost the taxpayers, it doesn't cost anything. And what you do is call them up and you put your clothes in there. And then what's really cool about it is, like, Goodwill will not take like pillows or bed sheets or anything like that, or, you know, dirty socks, but they will, because they go ahead and shred it, for lack of a better word, and then they make insulation out of it. So it goes into a good use, or they cut it up into different rags, or they go ahead and repurpose it and sell it to Goodwill. So there's a lot of good things, but the problem is the closest community that uses Simple Recycling is Villa Park. So I don't even know if they'll even come out here, but it's very cool, something to look forward to, I guess.
Okay, I mean, if you want to reach out to them and let us know.
I tried.
Okay.
I get nothing.
To Villa Park and see if I can get some contacts through them.
That'd be great, thank you.
All right, thanks, Christine. Jared, what do you got?
I have some public works updates. First of all, on the projects that we had going in town, Third and Hamilton, they are complete there. Austin Tyler and Kelvin Grove area has been off that job. They will start back in there next week, and they will stay there until they're finished, which is probably late October, probably the mid-November, if you're in the Kelvin Grove area. P.T. Farrell will finish up the striping on the north side of Farrell Road this week. Also, we are starting our hydrant flushing program next week. If you see signs posted in your area, just a reminder, when they are flushing hydrants in your area, you will have rust in your lines for a while. So make sure you're not doing a load of whites after they're flushing. I've also been informed, and we will be finding out later, I've been talking to Public Works, that they have some concerns down at the treatment plant. They've run into some catwalk issues where we're going to have to spend some emergency money. They're looking into find out to what extent we need to do repairs on, so they're not going to come to us until they have like a presentation on how much they want to spend or how much they need to spend to get some issues resolved. Also, I wanted to announce, and this is where I can get Ben and some of the other people involved. If you haven't heard, they've announced the Rebuild Illinois program. As part of that program, they are going to be redoing the 9th Street Bridge. They are redoing the whole deck. They are spending $25 million on the bridge itself and another $10 million in all the engineering, so about a $35 million project. If we don't do anything, basically, we are going to get the exact same bridge that we have. So here's our opportunity to try to meet with some of our other constituents and maybe go even higher up than us to see if there's any, other changes that we can make to this bridge during this rebuild. So if, Ben, you want to add a few things that you know about it, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. I mean, you covered it well. I think the intent with that phase one that we're doing right now with Romaville and Lewis University would be completed before they start. This is in the IDOT's 24 to 28 plan, so they probably won't actually construct the bridge until 27, 28, because they'll probably do engineering phase one, phase two, and 24 and 25. But we haven't gotten a lot of details yet, but we were pleased to see that on their letting projects. And yes, absolutely, we want to advocate so that they include pedestrian accommodations. We want the bike path. If they're going to replace the deck, they can certainly make it 10 feet wider and separate the grade between the traffic and the bike path.
And is this a total rebuild, or is it a deck rebuild?
Well, we call it a superstructure. I call it a deck. I don't know about
Just the deck.
It's the deck. It's not just resurfacing, it's replacing the whole top, basically.
There's no way to make it bigger, huh?
Well, we think we can, yes.
You might be able to do it for like a bike path
Yeah.
thing.
But not for lane.
Yeah, having other lanes, it's always the rub, because you can have extra lanes, but you can have 10 lanes, but then they all narrow down to one lane anyway, so that's the rub.
Yeah, I would back up on
But the pedestrian thing is something we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I meant.
Okay.
And by the way, that was, while we're on this, are you done, JR?
Yeah, well, then I just wanted to thank the Public Works Department. They are now, if you haven't seen on Facebook, they are giving their updates as well, which I think more people probably see those on Facebook than they do hearing me talk, so.
They're very good updates, very good.
I think we have
So
6,000 followers
Thank you for
now.
doing that, appreciate
And
that.
then the newsletter that, Public Works has started is great too.
Yeah, it was
'Cause I printed that out and actually put it on our bulletin board in our complex, so let people know what's going on.
On our Facebook page, that's 6,000.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
No, Doug.
But going off of that with the IDOT deck replacement, I was talking with Hugh from the Will County Governmental League, just about like we're going to have an upcoming meeting where just all of the mayors along here with Lamont, Romeoville, Crest Hill, Joliet, Shanahan, Rockdale, just this whole crew getting together and really going to IDOT in force. And one of the things we've struggled with is, when I squawk about bridge problems or something like that, it's like, well, that's just one mayor. When others do it, it's just one mayor. So we're like, look, we need to get together and be really clear about, what we want. It's no small thing trying to cross the Des Plaines River Valley. It's a big deal. And as we are the largest inland port in North America, as we always hear, that has to be addressed in some fashion. And we just feel like, there's not been a lot of leadership at the county level per se, is that we could get together as mayors and approach IDOT. But we need to be clear about what we're looking for from them. One of the things too, when we were talking with Hugh, was there's like $1 billion worth of bridge repairs that have to happen in Joliet, those drawbridges, and they were talking about doing some work, and it sounded like it was the same time they're doing the deck repair. I'm like, do these people not organize themselves? Can you imagine closing basically all the bridges down across the display? But that's the kind of stuff we feel like when it's just I'm the bureaucrat in charge of, this area, and I'm the one in charge of that, and they don't talk to one another. So we want to try to have some better coordination with that too. So just to update as we talk about these things. All right, has anybody else got anything going on?
Then we will get an update on the streetscape project when we get into the grant topic from Brent, so just like that.
Thank you.
We good? All right, then let's move on. FN1, hand and copy machine lease agreement.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. The city's copy machine leases are expiring in November, so we went out for a proposal for the first time since I've been here. And we received proposals from 3 separate companies. Canon was the lowest. We have Konica right now, and we'll be switching to Canon with your approval. So we're looking at $599 per month for 42 months, and that's for 5 separate copy machines. And then there's also a cost for the actual copies that come out of there. It's looking to save the city over $10,000 over the life of that contract, so pleased to bring that to your attention for approval under Resolution 22-080. Any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. Would these be networked where you could email from them, make PDFs, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes,
Great, okay.
that's what we have now, and we'll
Awesome.
continue with that same thing, faxing, scanning, copying, printing, all of that all at once.
It's great to hear about the savings, too. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, we good with consent on that?
Consent?
All right. What else you got, Lisa?
Okay, so the city has utilized a few different options for investing our cash, but the majority of our cash is sitting as liquid at our local bank. And that was working for us very well at the time that the bank was not charging us any fees. But recently they have made a change within their corporation and have started to charge fees. At the same time, the interest rate is very low. And I've been able to find opportunities for the city to have, again, liquid cash. So this is not long-term investments. This is liquid cash at a much higher rate. So I'm proposing that we approve a resolution with PFM Asset Management for us to start more actively managing our cash balances. So some of it will be liquid, and then we also have opportunities to do more fixed income, a short term, which is 0 to 1 year. Our long-term investments are held with Sawyer and Faldudo, and we'll continue to do that. They're doing a great job for us, but for liquidity and short-term investments, I would like to entertain a resolution with PFM Asset Management with Resolution 22079.
So, my council members who are much more adept at these things than I am. What are your thoughts on that? Larry, Mark, and you guys do these kind of things?
I'll just speak to that. I've already looked at it and talked to both to Ben and Lisa, and agree with the program that they're going to go to. So for me, I would say put it on consent, and we're good to go.
Okay.
It's fine with me.
Is it FDIC insured?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, all of that will be FDIC insured, yes.
All right, then if there's no objection, we'll do consent. And then, Sunny, what do you got?
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, item 8T1 has to do with amendment to Chapter 91 and Chapter 152 as it pertains to house numbers. This update is to our code, provides for safety and consistency. So when you look at examples of these house numbers that are 2.5 inches or less, it's hard for first responders to see these homes. And I didn't realize, the purpose of contrasting. So if you want to blend your house number, go with that gray on gray. So, and in contrast to examples of 4-inch or larger house numbers, it makes it easier for first responders to respond. Mailman could look at your house and deliver mail. So we want to make sure that everything's consistent, up to date. This is not, the purpose isn't to go out and start, ticketing anyone. It's when someone goes in, does a remodel of their house, then, part of their inspection could be, hey, you need to update your house number, and therefore, that we could get more consistency. Also, I believe there's a plan of putting it out on the social media about like updating the house numbers. I think the next slide shows that example of how we're going to, yep. So addressing all addresses. So that will hopefully get everyone updating their house numbers. And if there's any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them. Yes.
So my concern is, okay, this is for single family. Some of the townhome subdivisions.
It's for actually multi.
Is it for both?
Yep, mhm,
Okay.
yep.
Because I know that even in our complex, we have them in our front, but the driveway is where an emergency vehicle would probably go into. And we don't have numbers on our balconies, which some of them face the driveways. And the end units face the golf course, the way it's set up. So we're actually discussing putting numbers on the decks so that at least, or the balconies, so at least the police department or the fire department, ambulance, whatever, can see those. We have posts, but we have a range, okay, 172, 20 to 172, 29 or something. So, and those people kind of get mixed up for some reason. Yep. So should we then prepare to possibly put additional numbers, not only the front, which we already have, but maybe on the back?
Well, you could always volunteer to put extra numbers. The code just states that you do have to have, like, outside of the complex, you have the
okay,
numbers.
like the front?
But each individual unit of a multi-unit dwelling would have to have their own, numbers visible in the egress wherever people are like going in and out. But if you're talking about behind the deck, that would be very helpful for first responders.
Okay, so that would be in addition to the front of the units?
Yes.
Right, okay.
I have a few comments. First of all, I'm not a fan of adding a code that we're going to say is not enforceable. I don't think that...
Well, it is enforceable. It is
yes, but you're saying we're not going to pursue people, but obviously if my neighbor called and said, JR's numbers aren't large enough, then you're going to have to come over and write me a ticket, correct? We are enforcing, if it's going to go on as a code, it has to be enforceable, which I don't like. I also spent money on my siding, bought a new address for plaque for my house, and they're 3-inch. Nowhere does it say that when we went online that the international thing has to be 4-inch. I want to ask Chief here shortly, are we using numbers on houses for emergencies, or have we switched to GPS? And what is more important? I just don't, I think this numbering thing is maybe as minuscule as it is going to affect a lot of homes in this area. And people are going to complain about it. I'm not, I guess I'm complaining is that? I guess I'm complaining as it is. I also know that the INTRNACHI, which is the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, is 3-inch. So, I mean, this, you could say it's the international code of 4-inch, but whose code, I mean.
Is this yeah, because my question is with him. Is this the International Fire Code? Building code.
It's the code that the city has adopted, is the International Building Code.
We've already adopted that when we
Right.
did the adoption of the new updated building maintenance code, property
Correct.
maintenance code, electric code, and everything else. We just had in our Chapter 91 and other places that was inconsistent with what we adopted 5 years ago, or 3 or 4
It's
years ago.
inconsistent language, and I would say that any number that's up there right now is legal nonconforming, just like anything that existed prior to our new zoning code taking place or anything like that. So anybody whose house has 3-inch letters right now, even if your neighbor called us and said, hey, this guy's got 3-inch letters, if you had it up before 2 weeks from now, if this is meeting your satisfaction and you pass it, doesn't mean that you automatically get a ticket. We would certainly suggest to you that, you know, we think that 4-inch letters would be beneficial for service, but if you have 3-inch letters now, you know, we have no mechanism to force you to go to 4-inch. You could have 1-inch letters now if you wanted to. I wanted to point out I'm not sure why this thing isn't working. Sonny, could you go back to?
Chief, can I have you speak for why they're looking into that?
Do you want to do the first slide?
Yeah.
One.
One of the issues that we have on the screen, this is a Lockport house on the right-hand side. That red circle are the house numbers. So those are some of the issues that we struggle with when we respond from a code enforcement standpoint, building inspection standpoint, is we can't find the house numbers oftentimes. And I'd be certainly interested in hearing Rich's response as well. We did talk with the fire district because we interact a lot on different code-related things, and they do use the house numbers as a confirmation of what they are directed to via GPS, so that they can see that and make sure that they're at the right house.
Sure. So I'll say the fire department does have a pretty elaborate system in their vehicles, where they do, I think, have a GPS system where they can pull up right to the house. We don't have that in our squad cars, so I don't want to really debate whether a 3-inch or 4-inch number is better for us to be able to see. What we look at is, can we see them from the street, right? At night, it is very difficult to see these numbers. I can't tell you how many times, you know, I've, like I said, almost 24 years here, probably about 7 years on midnights. Especially at night, like look at that gray house there with gray numbers. Even at night with a spotlight, probably not going to be able to pick that up very easily. So it really depends on the size of numbers and whether we can see it from the street if we're driving past there. From 15, 20 yards away, I couldn't tell you, you know, if a 3-inch or a 4-inch would be a better option without actually going out there and taking a look at it. But there are houses that make it really difficult for us to see, and it does take us more time to find out which house actually is the house we're going to. We don't like to generally pull up right on houses anyway. For safety reasons, we'll back off a house or two. So, I mean, would a 4-inch number be easier to see? I would think so, depending on the color, the contrast, all the other stuff. And I know, Joanne, you mentioned putting numbers on the back of the residences there. If it's on a balcony like a second story where we can't get to, it won't do anything. We can't, you know what I'm saying? We're not going to be coming through that way anyway. So I'd say as long as they're on the front, properly marked, we're good. We've responded to a lot of calls over there by, in that area. And we've had really no problems.
Okay, well, that's
so
good to
just
hear.
so you know, yeah, we really had no problems responding over there. There's a lot of doorways, but no real issues over there for that. If you've been asked about that, but yeah, like this one here with was that a beige color house? I mean, from here I can't see it even from here, but I would say I probably couldn't see that one at all, light night or day from the street, maybe. So they're difficult to see, and it just takes us more time to get there, and time is of the essence. So I would say it depends on the color, the contrast, and again, 3 or 4 inches. I mean, I don't want to sit there and get into the big debate where 3 or 4, I mean, 4 inches probably see it easier, but I would have to go to your street and actually look at it from where my squad car would be and tell you, for sure, yeah.
I think the purpose is like, if someone is doing a remodel and they end up taking the sidings down and they're putting in new siding, we want them put 4-inch, letters, if that's what they're doing. So that is the whole purpose, is that as you go through and get a permit to do, remodel or improvement, then the inspector could say, this is 2 inches, you can't see it, or it's not contrasting.
For your specific situation, when you got your siding permit, or when your contractor got the siding permit, we will add a condition on the permit conditions that everybody signs, letting them know that 4-inch numbers are required as part of the code when you go to replace new letters, new numbers, things like that, so that it is visible. But again, this isn't something that we're the number police going out to try and find all the houses in the cities that have less than 4-inch numbers. They all become legal and non-conforming right off the bat. But if we've got a house with 9 other code violations that we're working with, we'll say, hey, we'd also recommend that you increase your number size to 4 inches while you're going to take care of X, Y, Z, Q, and P. And again, I just want to clarify, one of the reasons for this is because our current zoning code it conflicts with our building code. And our building code says 4 inches that we've adopted. Our zoning code from 1979 still says 2 inches because it's in a different section than the zoning particular sections that we redid. And so this is simply bringing our 2 codes together. The trouble that we had is that when we would point out that a house's numbers are 2.5 inches, they could say, well, your zoning code says 2.5 inches. We would say, well, but our building code says 4 inches. And they say, well, your zoning code says 2.5 inches. And we get into this round robin circle about who's right based on our codes, and our codes don't agree with themselves. And so it's a challenge for us to not have them align. The IBC code is a straightforward international building code. We're not going to modify the IBC, and we think it's better, both based on police and fire's input that they've given us, to have a 4-inch letter as a minimum, because that is what's in the IBC.
Well, since we have it, on record that you guys are not going to be the number police, then I will back off and I can support the 4-inch numbers. So, but I have that. We have that on tape. That we are not going to be the number police. Right. So,
but I do have 2 questions. First, if a house has their numbers in stone as part of their exterior work, if they do work on that exterior of the house, does that stone plaque have to be removed if it's not a 4-inch letter?
Only if they have removed it as a part of the project.
Okay, and then also the hardware stores then locally will no longer be legally allowed to sell any numbers or letters below 4 inches.
You could still put it on your post box. Your mailbox, you could actually put numbers on your mailbox, and some people do that to make it easier for the letter carrier.
It is something that we would like to reach out to ACE, though, and let them know. That's something like that. We did the same thing with the coal tar stuff. We called ACE and let them know that there was a change coming. We would want to let them know that is happening as well.
It should start in your office when they do go in for the permit, to educate them. However, though, since they don't correspond with the building and the code, what do we do? I mean, why are we conflict in just our own?
We just didn't update it.
That's why we're changing it.
That's why we're changing
doing
it.
then right now? Okay, I apologize.
It's for consistency. And it wasn't in the zoning code, but chapter 91, which is, I forgot what that code pertains to. Oh, it's sidewalks. It has to do with sidewalks and public right of way.
Well, I think everybody's
all new construction is 4
with
inches.
It's non-conforming legal, so we're good. Any other questions? I think we okay with consent then at this point? Yes. Thank you, everybody. All right, what else you got there, Sunny?
Okay, item 81 has to do with amendment to Chapter 111 of the City Code pertaining to liquor licensing. It will add a Class N liquor license, and this particular class is being drafted and crafted in response to the Thornton's Economic Incentive Agreement that was approved by the City Council back in 2021. Part of that economic sharing agreement was that the Thorntons, after they opened, we were going to share the motor fuel tax up to $500,000 or 3 years, whichever occurs first, in order to help them with the additional acquisition of that southern portion of that property that they needed for the truck movement, and then also creating an extra lane off of 159th Street. So we are obligated under that economic incentive agreement that we already approved to create this Class N that will be only for what is defined and meets the definition of a truck stop or a large truck stop as defined by the Video Gaming Act. 3 acres or more diesel fuel, you have to have a certain number of diesel cell at that location. And so this will be creating that class. It will be capped at 2. It's capped at 2 because there is another development that is interested in the same packaged liquor sale. It will be only for beer and wine only, no on-site consumption, either in the store or in the parking lot. They will be having the same hours as any other liquor licensee, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions.
Hey, one thing for clarification, Sunny, when we create an extra one, that we still have the option as a council to decide whether to grant it to a business that's applying for it or not. Or is it once it's out there, it's like, hey, if they ask, you got to give it to them?
That's what you are authorized to do as a local liquor commissioner. They would be applying, and if they meet the qualification, and if it's a business that is sound and reliable, that you can grant that license. If it turns out to be some Joe Smith off the street with no financial backing, and all of a sudden they said they want their liquor license, you have the discretion to say, no, that person doesn't qualify because of X, Y, and Z. So it would not come up to the city council regarding whether or not they should have a liquor license. But once that cap is available, if they meet all definition, there's no ding in their record, then you issue the license.
So if so we have a Class N, there's no reason to deny it based off of personal preference, as long as the business is
Meets that definition.
A shining statue of liberty, basically.
Yeah, meets all the qualification under our code.
And realistically, we're not going to have that many. Did you say it has to be 3 acres?
Yeah, 3.
We're going to have it at 3 acres.
Yep.
So it's very specific for this kind of
Yes,
business?
very specific for this operation.
Okay, that was my question to you. All right.
Because in terms of it coming up in the future, it might just be 1 or 2 in the future.
Yeah, and there's a cap right now, there's 2.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Any other thoughts? I mean, something we had kind of agreed on with these guys, so, all right. Are we okay with consent, or do you want to? Yes. All right. And then, what do you got first, Lance?
This is related to ordinance 22021. This is a small business streetscape impact grant program that we are proposing to the city council for your consideration. This is related to the construction that's happening on 9th Street between State and Hamilton, and then on State Street between 10th and 11th Street. Basically, the parameters are, we believe that the construction project is a city-imposed challenge, so when we talk about shutdowns and things like that, this is something that we have imposed on the business owners. It's ultimately going to be beneficial to them, but for the time being, it's challenging. This would only be eligible for sales tax producing businesses because we get some of that revenue back over time. We are recommending $150,000 to be reserved from our gaming funds. That is 21% of the projected end-of-year balance that we'll have at the end of 2022. recommending a $5,000 grant maximum for a business that has revenues under $300,000 and $10,000 max for businesses that have revenues over $300,000. And the business grant is capped at the verifiable comparative loss between last year and this year for the 2-month period that we've identified in the program. With that, I'll take any questions that anybody has.
I've got a question. You're talking business revenue or net income? They're two different.
Revenue.
Because to me, if I lost $10,000 in revenue, if I had that $10,000, there would be costs associated with it. So my profit, my net income would be less than the 10.
Yes, when we did, this is very similar to the way we did the COVID grants, and we were actually looking for a loss of revenue. We did not compare their expense. Okay, so it was
right?
written up the same way. Yeah, you are exactly right. But the way we wrote this program for COVID and then the same for this was based on the gross revenue. So we're looking at revenues back last year compared to this year, and if they have a loss in revenue between the 2 years, that's when we're looking to give them either $5,000 or $10,000, depending on what their total revenue is for the whole year.
So your concern, Larry, is that if somebody had a $100,000 billing, but it happened to be it cost them $98,000 in expenses, they really only made $2,000, right? Right, because they would jump in. So I see what you're saying.
Up to 10, though, so it may, if they don't qualify with the revenue losses, sure.
Like, should it be based off of net income as opposed to?
And I would say that the grants are only eligible for certain things, and they were listed in the program. I don't have that in front of me right now, but there are eligible and ineligible items, just like we had for the COVID grants as well.
I think it's difficult to define differences between, profit and markup. The markup on a piece of chocolate at Beanie's is different than the markup on a steak at Tallgrass. So sometimes it's hard to, I don't know if we really want to get into the weeds of everybody's net profits. It might be more difficult. Revenues, you can show by looking in the past, whether it was month to month or year to year, that they didn't have as good of a time period. I think it's fair to address it in some way. We kind of had a mini committee last time, and I think we're proposing doing that again, myself, Renee, Lance, Lisa. So if we have something we think is slightly questionable, we can share with the full council on that final decision as well. Okay.
I don't have a question, I have a statement, I guess. This is from the gaming funds, and I feel that this is definitely needed for the downtown area. However, going forward, what happens if we have a construction project down 159th and it blocks certain businesses, and their funds are reduced? Thank you. I was trying to think of the word. So, I mean, to me, we have to realize that if we go ahead and do this, I feel, I could be wrong about this, Sonny, but if we do this for this, then if somebody else wants to go ahead and apply for, a grant because their loss of business because of construction, I think they should be allowed to do that. And then the second thing is, you're only doing businesses that have sales tax revenue, and the comment was made that it's only done because the businesses that don't have sales tax revenue can simply go to that person's house. But I'm going to disagree with that, because businesses like Ryan Sharp's and Andy's and Letty's, they have older clientele. So they want to be there in person. So they're hurting just as much as Beanie's Candy Store. Everybody's affected.
Yeah. To answer the first question about impacting something on 9th Street, we will have a construction period in 2024 for the channelization that will impact the traffic flows on 9th Street, but I think being able to turn into a business in your car and get through a drive-through or have their own parking lot is different than in this scenario where we're taking away the lifeblood parking of supporting those businesses in the downtown.
What about somebody from the outside and they're like, well, I'm not going to go to downtown Lockport because all that construction, and they don't go to Embers, or they don't go to, I don't know, Tallgrass, you know? So, I mean, everybody's affected. So I think it's warranted, and I agree with it. I just want everybody to realize that there's more to this, you know? I think more businesses are affected by this construction because this is a main road.
I don't have any issue. We can expand it as far as the council would like it to go.
Okay.
Well, and they can still apply.
That's true. They can apply and you can reject or agree.
There is a defined boundary of the impact area, so anybody within that boundary can apply for it. Anybody that is not within that boundary would not be able to, and it's tied to the construction zone of where activities are actually occurring. But if the council in general wants to expand it to the entire downtown or create a duplicate program for the lane consolidation on 159th Street or create any other program they want, we can certainly advance programs for those
what
things.
we should see is the data from this, once the whole process happens, and see how it was used, especially if Renee's going to be on the small committee, see what comes before her in the group, and get back to us once it's over and let us know how it operated, because if we do have to go to the channelization of 9th Street, and eventually, you said 2027, 28, with the bridge deck being redone, that could be another issue that we may have to go back into the gaming funds. The one positive is, based upon your email from this past weekend, we do have 2 possible new sources of gaming revenue in terms of businesses coming up over the next year or two. So I think in terms of the balance in the gaming fund, we should be okay. I'm not worried about that, but I want to make sure that our parameters here, let's look at the data before we expand out. Let's see how the funds are used, and then if it works here, we can take that same data set and say, okay, how is it going to work for channelization, do out a map, and then get ready for 27, 28 when
Everybody's gonna be
all hell
affected,
breaks
yeah.
loose with the bridge. So, but I think this is a good idea. I like the fact that it's rolling off what we did with the COVID. It does support the businesses downtown and those purposely affected by us wanting to do the streetscape. I think it will then enhance the appearance of their businesses. So we are giving them a bit of a lift there as well. But I would like to see the data when this is all said and done. And if we do have to go towards the channelization project, we do have to figure out, okay, 27, 28, that's 6 years away. How are we going to prepare for Bridge-ageddon? So,
Very good.
thanks.
If I could, I believe when we did the COVID grants, we set up tiers. So everybody that was in tier 1, which was sales tax, received their money first, and anything that was left over then went to like a tier 2 business. So there were other businesses, I think, that did have some funds. I mean, we could set up a
could allow tier 2
and if
outside
there's
of the
anything
zone.
left after all the sales tax businesses, so if you have the financial institutions and the law offices, that if there's anything left, then we would go and move towards a tier 2. I do think it's a little bit more difficult when you're looking at a month to month. You know, somebody like an Andy Coyle law office, their revenue isn't the same like it would for a Beanie's, right? Their income would be regular from a retail shop versus a law office, so
Could you do year to year then?
we could do a year-to-year for a tier 2, or, you know, expand it a little bit further to, you know, to talk. Let us talk about that, and we can bring something back maybe at the next meeting to see how we could encompass that. We may only get, you know, 5 businesses that will even apply for this. We don't know at this point. So let's see where we're at and what we get as an application, and then we can have a tier 2 to go back and look and see if there's any funds up to that cap that Lance put in there, and maybe determine a way to be able to compensate those people, if you guys are okay with that.
Okay. Can I please have a construction update? I know we're basing this on a 2-month period. I think we're already past 2 months on 9th Street alone. So I was wondering, Brent, could you at least give us an update on where Dunneman is on 9th and then what they're doing on State?
Yes, the
Progress on 9th Street is a little bit behind schedule. They are looking at about 3 weeks beyond the initial completion, which was the 1st of September. So they're looking now like this week and then another 2 weeks of time to complete. I'm hoping that that's going to get us to the end, and it won't extend beyond there, but that's what their schedule as of today is. Moving over to State Street, they have started State Street. The anticipation, again, they've got 2 months. Their schedule shows 2 months. Will they meet that? If you want my honest assessment, I would say no, they will not, and they will probably creep into another week, 2-3 weeks beyond on that project as well.
Is this because of that strike at the quarries?
No.
Not really, no.
It has nothing to do with anything other than just the time it takes to do the work and I'll say the management of the project.
Understood.
It's a little more tedious.
Yeah. It's not an easy job. I don't want to give anybody a false sense that this is an easy job. It is difficult. It's time consuming. There's a lot of work in a very tight area, but it's a contract, and both sides agree to that. So that's where that's at. If I could, I'm gonna throw devil's advocate just quickly out there on the previous topic. One of the reasons that we're doing the channelization job is to make it easier to get into businesses and to the long-term benefits. So yes, there is some short-term pain. I just don't want everybody, and I know council, you're very aware of the benefits, but it's a negative now, but these are huge, great, fantastic projects for the city. These are huge positives when we're done. So while it is challenging, I know it's a little bit of a frustrating time, that the benefits are forever essentially. So when we get that turn lane on 159th Street, hopefully we see an increase in traffic coming through the city. Hopefully we see an increase in people getting in and out of our businesses quicker. They say, boy, it's not the backups that we used to see. So just to throw that out there, I don't want to make that a decision maker on which way we go with it, but from a job standpoint, these are great jobs, and I just don't want everybody to lose sight of that.
Well, I agree in that they're always painful. I remember talking to an alderman, this is way before I was ever mayor, back when they were doing the Plainfield reconstruction, and he was like, man, these businesses, they want to kill me, and then now they're happy as clams, so it's always the problem, right? And yes, this is terrible, and it'll eventually pass, and it'll be really nice. But that's okay. It's still the nature of people that are there who are suffering or feeling their business is going down to panic and worry and not necessarily think that it's going to be a great payoff. I think with one of the things that we've been very fortunate in our city is that, when the gaming came into town, that the council allotted it to downtown. Now, we've since done some expansion with it, right? We've allowed some facade grants to go outside of the original scope of it, kind of speaking to what you're talking about, Christina. It's like, well, what about some businesses that are further out? And we've been able to do that, and we can make those decisions. And I think the bottom line is we don't have a gaming fund that is like in our neighbor community where it goes to the budget, just operations. That's horrible, right? So this is really stuff we can use to help when we can. And we're very fortunate to be able to help when we can. And even though there's benefit in the ultimate, end for it, is like being able to help while we can, while this is going on, I think it's part of our duty and the way we look after each other. So I think it's a great idea. I like the idea of our COVID grant was really successful. I think revisiting it and looking at the tier thing again, maybe that's a good idea. It helps also with some of Christina's thoughts about, businesses that are not just sales tax. Maybe they can be in there too. But that's my 2 cents on it. So.
Should we bring it back as action, and we can show maybe a little bit wider impact zone, and then a couple ideas on tiers in the packet?
Yeah. And if we have to, push it off another meeting because we're not happy with it at the time, we can. But in the meantime, we'll put on an action, and if it all looks tight and everybody feels good about it, we can move on it. We okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Brent, what do you got?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. PW-1 this evening is in regards to our 167th Street Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project. As Council is aware, we have the Veterans Memorial Tollway project that is going along I-355. Huge pedestrian improvement, pedestrian bike path. It's a great improvement for miles along that stretch. So we've got this fantastic new asset, and on the east side of that, so when you get east of Prime, you have a lot of residents. You've got Victoria Crossing East, Victoria Crossing West, and you've got Cedar Ridge. Again, and now Silo Bend. I apologize, now Silo Bend. So we've got, you know, a lot of residents that we've got to figure out a way, or we're trying to figure out a way to get them access to Veterans Memorial Tollway, and also link up our internal system between the north side of Division and the south side of Division, 167th Street. So what we're asking for would be an ITEP grant application. So basically what this would be an 80-20 grant that would help us to improve the intersection. It sounds easy. It sounds like, oh, it's just striping across the road, but when you stripe, you're actually losing a little bit of the turn lane. So unfortunately, you're losing that turn lane length by 10, 15 feet. You've got to extend that back to the west. So that entire roadway section has to get kicked back to the west 15 feet. That's why the cost that we're showing, I want to say it's over $1 million in construction, 1.1 million in construction. That federal share, 900,000, our share would be 200. That's down the road. That's if we were to get this grant. But today we're asking for council's consideration to move forward with the grant application. It would be, again, 80-20, so our portion would be 20%. We're also looking to, if you can see in here, Will County Transportation, we're looking to work with them on splitting our 20%, so it'd be a 50-50 split of the 20%. So ultimately, city would be on the hook for 10%. If all went through. Asking for council's consideration to approve resolution number 22-081, authorizing the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program grant agreement between the city and IDOT for a portion of the 167th Street Pedestrian Safety Improvements Project.
All right, questions, concerns?
Yeah, I'm great this is going through. As someone that lives in Ward 1, this is a Ward 1 issue. I also believe it's a Ward 4 issue. If you look at Ward 1 and 4, we are the most disconnected between subdivisions because we were all planned out from the 90s forward. And this really begins to safely connect the subdivisions in Ward 1. And I hope also, and actually connects to Ward 4. So this is a safe pedestrian crossing for those of us here that have biked, run, walked our dogs, crossed 167th Street. You have to always look both ways the entire time you're crossing because it's a drag strip and you need a safer crossing. And so I'm hoping that this is going to give us additional safer crossings, as we discussed a couple weeks ago, across Cedar, but on both sides of Victoria Crossing. Pretty soon we might need one 163rd, just a safe crossing. We need possibly farther down the line when you have the golf course communities link up to Karen Springs. We do need to have these type of crossings in the future. This is just the first, but it's important to have this in those two wards because of the unique setup of those two wards. And I think connecting these to the rest of the city's bike paths, trail paths, pathways is important. And I think this is just the first step, and I'm very happy to see it.
Anybody else?
I've got a question. Was any of this previously budgeted, and if so, how much?
I don't think so. Because we didn't plan to build it without the grant.
Correct.
The
We
grant
have a CIP right now that this would be considered a B-list item. So we have, this is a secondary item. So as far as whether it was budgeted per se, it's not budgeted in the current CIP in the, in the 10-year.
Yeah. But if we can get $1 million for $100,000, that'd be a good deal.
Okay. Are we good with consent on this? All right. All right, me friends, anything else? Any new business?
I just wanted to make I don't know if we kind of jumped over it, but Brent was referring to, they are restriping 159th at Farrell Road. If you're heading eastbound on 159th, the right lane is just turn only to go towards Culver's. That is being changed to a through or right, so you can now continue east on 159th or make the turn. So as you noticed before, you could never go straight from there. So that's what he was talking about when he's talking about the restriping 159th.
It's included, yeah.
hoping
We're
that-
excited about that.
Yeah, that is good.
We're also talking to IDOT about potentially getting a dedicated right turn lane there in the long term. So this is a short-term fix we hope will alleviate a little bit. And this is a throwback here where I remember discussing this with Alderman Pete Colorelli about 8 years ago, so I'm glad to see this finally come in.
All right, very good. Thanks, Jay. All right, if there's nothing else, then I look for a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, Larry and Mark, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Just tell us when you're ready, Kathy.
You got it. You got it. Okay. Saban. Bartleson.
Here?
Lobes.
Here.
Bergbauer.
Here.
Galogly.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Karas.
Here.
Kostecki. Here. We have a quorum.
All right, looking for a motion to have a consent agenda.
Make a motion for
All right, we
second.
got Joanne and Larry. All good with consent?
Yep.
Yeah, good. I need some eyes, man. We all good with the consent agenda, everybody? All right, thank you. All right, so tonight we're looking for approval for committee of the whole meeting minutes from August 17th, the regular city council meeting minutes from August 17th, our special meeting minutes of the city council from August 18th. We're looking for the special meeting minutes also from August 27th. Looking for approval for the payroll period ending August 21st, our bills through August 30th. The rezoning of the Lamb's Woods, that's ordinance 22019, it's keeping agricultural, it's just going to be annexed. Request to declare Lockport Police Department vehicle surplus items, resolution 22076, and then lastly, there's the resolution 22077, which is the aeration tanks, the Public Works project. So we're looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Okay, sounds like Larry and Renee. Can I have a roll call, please?
That was Joanne.
Oh, sorry. Hey, sound like a Renee.
Ventriloquist.
She's got her opera voice tonight. She's like,
All right. Saban. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes.
Lobes.
yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Karas.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next, we're looking for approval for Resolution 22082, which is the Chevron rehabilitation projects to fix up the old building out there and make it
Make a
good,
motion.
garage. Larry and Renee, any questions on it, concerns?
Just a point of clarification, we did include some contingency in this amount. The actual contract amount we think is about 546. It's about 100,000 more than we budgeted, but that budget number, we weren't sure. We threw it out there last year. And with the pricing where everything is today, it's a little more. But we hope to come in less than 600,000, but we asked for a little extra just in case.
Awesome.
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it, though. Is how much would it cost just to tear it down and put a new one up?
Yeah, I had that question too.
A couple million?
Yeah.
A couple, 2-3 million?
Yeah, it's like, wow, okay. Well, there's nothing else, we'll do a roll call.
You got it. Saban. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Karas.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we're looking for approval on Resolution 22083, which is the stormwater program to Conley Excavating. Looking for a motion to approve that.
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, Larry and Mark.
Mayor, I need to abstain from the negotiations and the vote on this. I'm looking to sell Conley product.
All right. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? All right, we'll do a roll call, please.
You got it. Saban. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Karas.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, me friends, If there's nothing else, then we can adjourn if we have a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we got, sound like Mark and Larry in there. All in favor?
Aye.
Again? No, stop, yes.